another podcast here with Tony. And, thanks again for watching and listening in every single week. This is episode 90 something. I think we're at 96 or 97. So very close to
All right.
100 episodes of nothing but free game. Honestly, every single person I have every single week has so much value to give. And I'm so grateful for everyone that joins every single week. Today is no different. We've got Tony here, and I'm going to read out his bio and then hand it off to him to tell us, a better version of the bio and tell us a little bit more about, his knowledge and expertise. And of course, he has a lot to share with us today. So Tony is a PadSplit U.S. market advisor to real estate investors, specializing in helping them maximize returns in co-living through innovative housing solutions. With a background in real estate investing for over 10 years, he has experience as a loan officer, short-term rental service provider, and passion for addressing the affordable housing crisis via co-living. Tony partners with investors to unlock the full potential of their portfolios. He guides property owners and investors to the PadSplit solution in transforming underperforming single-family homes into high occupancy rent by room co-living opportunities. And, that's just a little bit of what he does. I think for those of you who don't understand what PadSplit is, you'll learn a lot about it today, and we'll get to that topic in a bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Tony, thanks for being here.
Thanks for
coming.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much.
For sure. I mean, we were just talking about this. We met almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You just got back from Europe.
Right.
So we met 2 weeks ago, networking event, and I've been out here in California for the past 2 months. I live in Austin full time, but I escaped the Texas heat and the Texas bugs for about 2 months. And since I have family and friends here and my roots here in California, I come out to California. So whenever I'm here, I take advantage of networking events and, all that stuff. But, I'm here to actually help PadSplit, launch the Orange County and then also the San Diego marketplace. But I don't know. Yeah, that sounds a little too formal. So let's kind of just.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. The bio, like all of our bios, sounds very formal.
Yeah.
And just to break it down so that people understand and digest what I just read, you basically help investors by helping them maximize their rental, right, through PadSplit.
Right.
So maybe before we get to the PadSplit conversation, though, in the bio, I also read that you were a lender, short-term operator.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get into the investment space? I think that's also a very good way for people to relate at some level, right? It's always cool to hear, how did you get involved in real estate in general?
It's actually, I think it's in my blood, in my DNA. I'm originally from Hawaii. My dad was in the military. He was in the Navy. And when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I remember going with my dad and collecting rent.
Oh, cool.
So my dad was actually probably one of the OG PadSplit people. He rented out by the room.
By the room.
Yep. So he bought properties, and then, we'd go to the properties once a month, and he'd be like, okay, we're going to collect the checks. And I remember him screening tenants and all that stuff. So, so I owe it to my dad, for, that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always been in the blood. I've always been enamored with real estate. My dad always says, buy real estate. And, it's proven from him, my mom and him, very hard working, immigrants.
Right.
My dad was in the Navy. My mom was a nurse, and they, bought properties in Hawaii. And then from there, parlayed it into their dream home. And then from there, they sold their home, and then now they live in California. So with that being said, real estate and has always been in my DNA. But I've been, formally in the real estate industry for probably about 7, 8 years, maybe close to 7, 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Started off as a loan officer.
Nice.
Did that for about 2.5 years, and I specialize actually in investors and short-term rentals.
Okay.
So I worked a lot with the short-term rental space with a lot of investors.
Did that just come naturally through clients, or were you I want to niche down into the short-term rental because it was kind of the thing at that?
It was. So I was doing traditional stuff, first-time home buyers,
right?
A lot of VA loans and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because of moving to Austin, that was like a huge surge for like short-term rental. Everywhere was a big surge,
Everywhere.
but Austin was probably like one of the top areas for short-term rentals. So
Got it.
that's how I got familiar with the short-term rental space. I actually connected with some guys in Austin. They were called Cribs. So that was their kind of their
I like
acronym.
that.
Yeah, it was cool. So they specialized in short-term rentals. So help them out with some stuff, and then from there, um, I went from loans to be working with a short-term rental provider. So
Mm,
I worked with a
okay.
company that did screening,
Okay.
and then also damage waiver. So they were Super Hogs, so Super Hoster Guests. I don't know if you heard of them before, but they were actually based in Barcelona, based in England. But
Oh,
that's the
okay.
reason why I went to Barcelona, was because of that.
Awesome.
We had our company meetings there and all that stuff, so I got very familiar with that space of short-term rental service provider.
Right.
From there, went to a small company called Vacasa. Vacasa is huge. They're like the biggest short-term rental company in the United States at that time.
At that
So I worked for them for a couple months, and then kind of saw the writing on the wall, as you know, like the short-term rental market not dried up, but
It got saturated.
yeah,
Right.
saturated, detracted. Especially in Austin, there was just a lot of like short-term regulation, and then a lot of saturation in the marketplace, and then also economy. People weren't traveling as much as they used to, so occupancy went down. So from there, just through networking, I found out there was this thing called co-living and like rent out by the room. And I was like, wow, what is that? So then I just did some research and came across a company called PadSplit. And before that, Raymond, I actually created a TV show in Austin called Tips, the investment property show.
Okay.
So I worked a lot with short-term rental people, and did that stuff. So it was a show on Sunday morning, like 11 a.m., talking about real estate and short-term rentals. But from there, that's when I met the other guys that were specializing in like co-living. But they were like doing more of like a community-based model. So kind of like elevated co-living. So they were basing it heavily on like community and like tech people living together and then sharing ideas and all that stuff. But for PadSplit, it was that rent out by the room model, but the opposite side of it was that there was no emphasis on community. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, no, I didn't really get a chance to like work with PadSplit.
Yeah.
I was telling you offline that at some point I was wanting to get PadSplit on the podcast because
in Florida,
in Florida, right? Because I know that you guys are also pretty big out there, and so it's a strategy that I enjoy, and I'm curious to learn more about it. Sure. I know we talked a little bit when we met at the event, but really understanding the model and how it works. From my understanding, the little that I know is you rent by the room.
Yeah.
But I don't know a lot, and more than that. And I think it'd be great for the listeners to understand like what else is out there. Short-term rentals are changing drastically, even here, right? Like there's been a lot of banning of short-term rentals or a lot of regulation around it because it's not what it used to be. It's definitely saturated, and the economy as well has an effect to it. The biggest strategy right now is either long-term rents, which in places like California doesn't pencil out a whole lot. So midterms is what's really like becoming the opportunity. Although you do need to, have a strategy there. You can't just put up a midterm and hope for the best. You have to think about travel nurses or corporate stays and make sure
insurance,
insurance, and making sure that the functionality of the space is well thought out for the person who's going to be there for a couple months or a couple weeks at a time. So that strategy I've talked about here, I call it the ADU MTR strategy. So one that also catches my attention is renting out by the room and co-living, and what does that really look like? And so it'd be great to hear, what does PadSplit look like? Like, what is that?
I could talk 8 hours about this.
I know.
I'm just so let's try and squeeze everything in like whatever this 30 or 45 minute session. So getting back, I mean, we are very social, right? We like to talk and community based and all that stuff. So when I first started with PadSplit, I was like, what do you mean we get rid of the living room? What do you mean we get rid of the dining room? So, what it is you're maximizing underutilized space in a single family rental. So, you're renting out by the room, so you're taking a traditional 3-2 or 4-2, so
Mm-hmm.
a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, or 4 bedroom, 2 bath, right? At a minimum of like 1,900 square feet.
Right.
Okay, it has to be 1,900 square feet, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
It's because with a 1,900 square foot home, you normally have a big living room, or you normally have a big dining room, or you normally have like an office
Shared
space.
living
Yeah,
space.
sure, or even like an office space or a loft, right?
Right. Right.
So that's where we're converting a 3-2 or 4-2 into like a 6 or 7 bedroom property. Okay, so people are scratching their head like, what do you mean by that, right? So again, the more rooms that you have in the property, the more money that you're making because we rent out by the room. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you take traditionally, right, a single family rental, you're just talking about that. They don't pencil out anymore,
No.
right?
Right.
Same thing in Austin, same thing in Dallas, all across the United States. There is not that one-to-one DSCR, that debt service ratio
No.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because of property taxes, because of high interest rates, like it's very hard.
Even with 20% down.
Exactly. Even with, yeah, or you have to bring more money to the table.
Right.
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 So this is where PadSplit comes along because this is where I work with long-term rents, short-term rents, and then also fix and flippers. So those are just, different things that we can go out. But getting back to what we were talking about, you know, I'm just gonna take this for example, taking a 3-2 or 4-2 that normally gets $2,000 a month, right? And you still can't cover the mortgage on it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that payment is 2,400 or 2,500. So you're
Mhm.
negative $500,
Right.
right? So again, if you pivot and take a look at what can PadSplit do, you're taking that 3-2-4-2, adding bedrooms to it. So if we were to add easy math, like 6 bedrooms to it at $800 per room, simple math, 6 times 8, $4,800 gross versus $2,000
Right.
gross, right? So that's where investors are like, okay, tell me more.
Mhm.
Okay. Um,
Now, when you say convert to 6 bedrooms from a 3-2 or a
Yeah.
4-2, are you talking about like reconfiguring some of that shared space or
Mhm.
adding 2 beds to each room?
So good question. So we specialize in SRO. So it's single resident occupants. Okay.
Okay.
So there's only one person assigned to each room. It's a private room.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Okay.
So we do adhere to like code, like FHA, minimum size of the room has to,
Right.
be, 80 square feet. But I advise my investors at least like 95 to 100 square feet, just because of like longevity and occupancy and
Mhm.
tenure. Just because if you have a bigger room, they want to stay there
Longer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then also size of the beds and all that stuff. But getting back to your original question, yes, we build it they're to code. So it has to have a door and then a window for egress, 2 points of egress, fire smoke detector, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
So you're abiding by the FHA.
correct.
Housing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know that in San Diego, it's a popular thing, especially by USC,
Mhm.
where, I have a lot of friends out there that build ADUs and a lot of them are being built. And I don't know the regulations. I know, like, in general, ADUs should not be short term.
Mhm.
So, midterm, again, is why it's such a popular strategy right now, because with midterm, we don't have to worry about regulations.
Sure.
So,
Exactly.
I don't know if, like, does that fall into the
Yeah.
same
So
category?
same thing. So with PadSplit, our minimum stay is 3 months.
Okay.
Okay. And then after that, it's week to week. So for the members. Okay. So that's the reason why a lot of like investors are like, especially in the short term rental space, when they want to pivot,
Hmm.
is they're like, oh, I have my license. I still got to pay $800, or, I still got to pay the hotel occupancy tax,
Yep.
for Airbnb. And as you know, like Airbnb fees have like gone up too. So,
And some of the numbers that you shared, I think, are more Austin numbers.
Yeah.
Because from what my friends are doing in San Diego, I've heard rooms are being rented between 1,200 to 1,500. Is that right?
Actually 1,700 to like 2,000.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So just doing some simple math here,
Yeah.
conservatively, 1,200 minimum times a 3 bed, right?
Mhm.
That's 3,600.
Right.
That's insane.
That's
just for a 3 bedroom.
That's for just a 3 bedroom. But the reality of it is obviously for San Diego, you're carrying a mortgage of $1 million.
Right. Yeah.
So your mortgage payment is probably about $7,500, right?
Mhm.
Is that with taxes, or I don't know?
Yeah, well,
Maybe.
I did want to share like the property I just bought that I was telling you
Okay.
about. I'm thinking of doing, well, I'm not, I'm actually going to do it because it's the only way that it pencils out. my mortgage is 6,000,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so, in order to offset that mortgage, I'm gonna SB9.
Yep.
Where I was telling you about
Mm-hmm.
subdividing. I'm gonna do two 800 square foot stacked units in the back,
Mm-hmm.
plus an attached ADU.
Yep.
So that'll be three units.
Yep.
A studio, two in the bottom, two up top.
Right.
So like, I think I was gonna go with midterm,
Mm-hmm.
right? But pad split
I'd
seems
love
like the
to.
better option.
Yeah, let's pencil it out and figure it
Yeah.
out. But yeah, so you're carrying a mortgage with taxes, insurance. Let's say I'm sorry, $7,500, right?
Mm-hmm.
You add 8 bedrooms to that at whatever eight times what $1,600.
Right.
It's close to 2,000. So that's close to like 14 grand. 14
Exactly.
eight. Remember
Yep.
like 14.8.
Yeah.
So if you're renting out half of those rooms, you're covering the mortgage, and the
And
other
some.
half is gravy. But keep in mind for pad split, you're responsible for our 8% fee. Okay, that's our standard monthly fee.
And it would be 8% for the entire unit or for each bedroom.
So gross rents collected.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
whatever's rented is what we collect.
So 8% of 14,000.
Correct.
Got it.
Right. And then you're responsible for the utilities,
Which is honestly pretty good considering the fact that like midterm and short term, their management fees are like 15 to 25%.
correct. Yeah. But I mean, there's some investors that want to be totally passive. So if you do, then, and we'll break that down. We do have property managers that are vetted in each city that understand the pad split co-living business model. So you can hire them if you want to be like totally passive. My wife is one for the Texas market. She doesn't work for PadSplit. She works with PadSplit. She has her own company and all that stuff. So in each market that we're at, we have an ecosystem of lenders, property managers, of insurance agents,
network of
of general contractors that can help you convert your property to a PadSplit or make that smooth transition.
So aside from the management fee, I'm assuming as the owner, you also take utilities on.
Yeah, so you take on utilities
and then furnishing
and then conversion of the property.
And what does it look like with all these upfront fees, right? Let's say there's an initial management fee, and then you also got to furnish the place, which is probably somewhere between 5 to 10,000.
Yeah. So the management fee is 8%.
Until
month to month. So once you start the unit and you start getting your first bookings, then it's 8%.
Okay? Honestly, like that's such a relief, right? To have someone manage your property. It's like hiring a property manager.
Exactly.
Here in California, it's 7 to 10% for long term.
But the 8%, what we charge, we have 5 buckets that we do. Okay. The first thing is we find the members for you. So PadSplit is like Airbnb and it's like Uber. It's a two-sided marketplace. We're a technology-based company, right? So we find the members for you. So we
slash tenants.
So I'm glad you caught that. So I'll expand on that. So we find the members for you. We spend close to $2 million per month on Google SEO search. Okay. So in the major 40 or 45 major cities that we're at, we own the search words room for rent. So if you're to type in room for rent in Tampa or room for rent in, LA or room for rent in Austin, the first 2 pages of that search are PadSplit properties.
Got it.
So that's how we fill the rooms at an 85 to 92% occupancy rate all across.
I was going to ask that.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's how we have. Okay. So we do that. We have major partnerships with Zillow Room for Rent and Furnish Finder. And then we also list it on major.
I didn't know Furnish Finder.
Yeah, we have a partnership with them.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then we also listed on like Roomy, Zumper, Rent Links, like 40 or 50, like rent by room.
Mini stays, I think is
all that stuff.
Awesome.
Okay, so we find the members for you. Okay, then the next thing we do for you is
we screen the tenant.
So we screen the tenant next.
Okay.
So once they become a member at PadSplit, we screen them. Okay.
So what is that screening process?
Background check. All right. I think we do it through LexisNexis. So we do a criminal check. We make sure there's no criminality. We make sure there's no more than 2 evictions in the past 7 years. We check their income. So we make sure that they can pay. Okay. Right. As a result of that, we have a 97% collection. Okay.
Awesome.
So all very high. From there, we also have what's called, we collect the rents for you. So we collect on a weekly basis. Okay.
Oh,
because the audience that we are going after, or the people that rent from PadSplit, they're people that make less than 60, $50,000 or less per year.
Mm.
So who is that, right? It's about 14 million Americans that are single resident
It's a big
occupants. It's a
chunk.
big chunk. Okay, so it's not limited to traveling nurses. It's not
No.
limited to flight attendants. It's not limited to students. It's a bigger pool.
Right.
Okay, and that's why people say, "Is this a fad? Is this a trend?" No, affordable housing is not going away.
Yeah, right.
People that make less than $20 an hour, they cannot afford to live and work in the cities because it's so damn expensive.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's who we are targeting. So examples: people that work at In-N-Out. Okay. People that are Uber drivers.
College students, millennials.
Maybe college students, millennials, people that whoever, TSA workers, they make less than $50,000.
Yeah.
And even like first year teachers. Story I like to tell: we had a teacher in Austin. He was making $51,000 a year. He was living in his car.
That's insane.
But he was living in his car. So we reached out to him like, "Hey, instead of living in your car, we have a PadSplit for you." He's like, "What's that?" It's an opportunity for you to build your credit back and get back on your feet, save some money. He did it. He moved out.
That's awesome. So you guys also like report to the credit bureaus?
We do. So yep.
Whatever, bill through whatever.
Yep. So we have that, and then we also have like consulting to help them like save money, or if they want to buy a house. We also have consulting services. We also have like if they're in a pinch and they need a loan, we have like interest. I'm sorry, not interest only, no interest loans for them. It's like a small amount, but it helps them get back. On
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that weekly model works for people.
Correct.
Like that.
Yeah.
And then you direct deposit to the landlord.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the end of the month, let's say July 31st, we collect weekly from 8 rooms or 8 tenants or members, and then we collect all that rent July 31st, and then by August 10th, we take out our 8%, and then we disperse the rest into your bank.
Awesome.
Okay, so we have all that information, we build it in,
and they give them a 1099 or whatever
correct
at the end of the year.
Yeah. So that's the third one. We collect the rest. The fourth, we have member-to-member management services. So it's the app. Okay, and then people ask, how do you manage co-living? Because if all
we're
four of us, so the maintenance tickets and all that stuff, you can communicate through the app. There's one single source where they can communicate with you, you can communicate with them. Cleaners are coming next week Monday, or hey, somebody take out the trash, or tenant goes, or member goes, hey, garbage disposal is broken, I need it fixed. Okay, so
you manage it all, turnover, everything.
Yep. So that's where we come in. And then also what I was getting at is that each member can rate each other on a weekly basis.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So what I mean by that is that let's say there's quiet hours. Exactly. So let's say there's quiet hours from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m.
Right.
Tony's being a problem. I'm super noisy. I don't respect anybody. Tony gets 2 stars by the 5 other members in the property.
Can they see each other's ratings?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So from there, I get a call, but they can see the rating, but they don't know who it's from. Right.
Got it.
Okay. But I get a call from our VA team, or the team, the PadSplit host team. Tony, you're being too loud. If you don't get your stars up to at least 4, you're going to get fined or removed from the property. What do you want to do? Okay. So that's how we manage.
And how does it work with removing or vacating someone sooner than their whatever tenancy term?
So couple things, and we'll get back to that. But the language that I use is members. So I'm going to talk about the contract because we manage a contract. So if you're the investor, okay, you sign a contract with PadSplit. So we set up whatever your address is, 123 Main Street,
right?
PadSplit LLC. So we set up a contract between PadSplit and 123 Main Street, which is you represent, right?
Right.
From there, we manage the member agreements, and they're not tenants, we call them members. Right? They're kind of like members of a gym. Okay. So from there, we manage the contracts between everybody. That's why they're like, in order to be PadSplit, you have to become a member. Okay.
Got it.
So we manage all that stuff for you. So that's another thing that we do. That's another bucket.
That's such a, for 8%.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, the time, the energy that it takes as a landlord, I mean, to babysit everybody and help with turnovers and maintenance requests. It's a full-time
It
job.
is,
People
yeah.
don't think that way, but
And
it's a full-time
yeah,
job.
and constructing the contracts and managing the contracts and
Right.
all that stuff. But
Scheduling vendors
yeah,
to do
exactly.
repairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's totally worth it. I 100% am with the model. I didn't know enough about it.
Hmm.
Another question that popped up to my head was with retention, right? You talked
Hmm.
about like 3 month minimums.
Yeah,
What is like the average stay that you see
6 to 8
people?
months.
That's
It
awesome.
depends on the city, but
Right.
average across the United States, 6 to 8 months. In the Austin area, it's like 8 to 10 months.
And
Eight.
here it'd probably be longer, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
difficult to save up for a house
Exactly.
or for a deposit on that.
Exactly. So we do have seasonal cities like Las Vegas, which is a little bit seasonal, but yeah, here it
And then the pricing for each room,
good
what do you
question.
use for data to price that?
Yeah, so each city is obviously different, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna take for example, in Austin, you're probably talking about like 200 to 220 for a shared bathroom.
Okay.
Okay. For a private bathroom, it's higher. You're probably looking at 275 to like 300, and that's per week.
Got it.
Okay.
Per week.
In LA area, you're probably talking anywhere from 300 to 350 per week.
Got it.
Or 275 for a
Mm-hmm.
shared,
Mm-hmm.
and then for a private, you're probably looking at maybe like 4 to 500.
Mm-hmm.
Just depends on what area you're at, right? So
And is it like also the area and the seasonality?
no,
Or
it's just more the
just
area.
okay.
And what's beautiful about the platform is when you build your property, it knows what area you're at because of obviously the address that you
Mm-hmm.
plug in
Mm-hmm.
and you set it up. But as you're building it, it knows like the pricing per city. And
Got
it's
it.
already built in. So you're not guessing. So it gives you the average. Okay.
Got it.
And based on average, that's how we come out with the average, stay is 6 to 8 months, or the average price per, I'm sorry, average occupancy is, 85 to 92% occupancy rate. Okay.
Got it.
So it's already all built in. Even like size of the room, even like the amenities. If you have, a mini fridge,
Right.
or you have a TV, or you have a bigger room, you click on that, it automatically does it for you. It's AI built in as
It's
a in
so
the
cool.
property. Yeah.
And do you see a lot of ADUs? Obviously,
I love that question. Yeah.
yeah.
So getting back to like your roots
Right.
of
Right.
ADUs is that my very first property that I launched, it was actually built for a pad split. And what I mean by that is that it was 3 properties on one lot.
Okay.
The 2 back properties were ADUs.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So this investor had I think it was a 6 bedroom property up at front,
Okay.
and then he had one a 2-sided ADU, an A and a B, and then the last unit was a C, which was a 1 bedroom.
Got it.
He was trying to sell the property. It's a very specific, or rent the property and sell it, either or.
Either or.
It's a very specific property that
To sell or rent long term.
exactly, but
Right.
it played into PadSplit because of the rent by room model. Right?
Exactly.
He couldn't do anything with that property. It was like in 2022
Mm-hmm.
or 2021. Yeah, about 2021. He couldn't do anything with the property because it was just so specific. He had offers, but it wasn't what he wanted. I think he was trying to sell it for like
Right.
700, 650,000 in Austin, at that time when the high.
Yeah.
And that's when interest rates were so high. And then, a lot of people were kind of moving out of Austin. Didn't really, like, it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
so he was like, man, what do I do with this property? And I was like, pad split it. He goes, what's that? Rent
Yeah.
out by the room. Oh, I don't know, this and that.
I
I'm
feel
not
like
sure.
because of the lack of knowledge,
Yeah.
people are very hesitant.
Exactly.
They're like, "Oh, by the room."
Yeah.
Well, wait, how does this
Yeah.
all work?
And,
So
it people do it. We've been doing it for like
for a long
time.
time. I mean, you were talking about like your parents, right? And them renting out by the room,
Yeah.
and you saw them collect rents. My parents to this day don't have a property manager. They rent out a room.
Yep.
Right now they're which used to be my room
Mhm.
as a teen.
Yeah.
And now that they're empty nesters, they have a 4-2. They're renting out what used to be my room with just a bathroom for
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
No kitchen.
Yeah.
It just has a bathroom and a pretty big closet.
Right.
That's it. But my dad self manages.
Yeah.
Like he met the lady. His screening was the neighbor recommended.
Yes.
There was like
Exactly.
no vetting process.
Exactly.
Although it shouldn't be that way, but like to your point, it's been going on for years.
It's been going on for years.
And a lot of like older immigrants as well, as my parents included, they do it. You know, they do it to
You
family
have to,
members because it's the only way
because it's the only way for them maybe to stay in their house.
to stay in their house. And their
Yeah,
mortgage is pretty low, but the cost of living is
exactly.
expensive, and retirement doesn't
I'm
pay
glad you're, yeah, yeah.
for the living.
Yeah, so that's kind of the also the next iteration. I mean, PadSplit, we do have owner occupied, but that's, I think that that's where it's gonna probably be going, because all these, baby boomers are getting older, and they have all these rooms that are like, I think,
Empty.
yeah, I think like our CEO Atticus did a podcast that there's like, I think there's like 35 million rooms across the United States that are just sitting empty.
I believe that.
So I love PadSplit because, again, we're helping solve the affordable housing crisis.
Yeah, and
And
that's one thing that stood out in the bio,
yeah,
you know, because I'm huge on ADU advocacy because I feel like creating more ADUs
yeah,
allows for more affordability,
right,
especially for people who can't afford to live near the city that they work in. They
exactly.
got to drive out 2 hours out because they
Hmm.
can't afford to buy here.
Yeah,
Building something in your backyard allows for more inventory, whether it's to sell it or to
yeah,
rent it, or rent it by the room. It creates
exactly.
more inventory
So what
overall.
ADUs are, you're capitalizing on underutilized space, whether that
Yeah,
be that land,
and you're doing
and
the same with existing space.
exactly. And I love that too,
Yeah,
because we're really being green and repurposing
yeah,
land, and
and
we're not
proactive and creating opportunities.
exactly.
More inventory does create more affordability
Yep.
because it's the supply and demand basics, right?
Yeah.
If there isn't enough supply, the demand is
Yeah.
just keeps going up. And so creating more supply would hopefully relieve and be able to have more affordability
Yeah.
in the space.
And I love it too, is because it's a big thing is that we haven't asked for one tax dollar from the people
Hmm, hmm.
of the United States, because we're just repurposing,
What's there?
what's there already. We're not
Right,
asking, hey, give us grants for to build a 15-plex unit,
right.
and only 10% of them are affordable housing, and the other rest, they're going to be sold and be profited for. Right.
Exactly. And I'm assuming through like the advocacy and what you guys have been doing, and how many properties you guys manage now nationwide?
Well, we have close to 35,000 rooms across the United States.
Okay.
Majority of them, I think like 10 or 12,000 of those rooms are actually in Atlanta,
Okay.
because that's where we started.
Got it.
So we're big on the East Coast.
Big on the East
Atlanta,
Coast. I didn't realize that.
yeah, Jacksonville,
And
Tampa. Yeah, they're the
I'm
top three.
assuming there has to be, because although a lot of our listeners aren't educated enough in PadSplit model, there are a fraction of investors who have seen that opportunity. And I'm assuming you work with a lot of them who are now looking to buy with the intention of building or reconfiguring space for PadSplit
Yeah,
model.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. I mean,
Are you working with like developers and investors?
yeah.
How
So
to build for this?
yeah, yeah, a couple things. We are working with a lot of companies now that are like built to PadSplit.
Okay.
Like this company called Pin Group in Houston, and then Southern Impression Homes down in
Mhm.
Jacksonville. So they do a lot of like buying the land and then building like 1414s or 1010s,
Got it.
in that area. And then here in LA, I just interviewed somebody, Gene Santiago. They're building a 3535 in downtown, like in downtown LA area.
Mm.
So that's like huge. A lot of like, big funds, or not big funds, but institutional people are starting
Yeah,
to do
they're
that.
looking at that. I mean, they're looking at the ADU
Yeah,
strategy too for a
exactly.
lot of their residential. They're
Yep.
like, how can we develop existing, more units on existing land?
Exactly.
So it's the
Yep.
same
Same
concept.
concept, yeah.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, I had the great blessed to be working with Pace Morty.
I know, I see
So
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so Pace, about a month and a half ago, he's doing a zero hero thing. I walked a couple of properties with him, and helped out a lady named Jennifer. She had MS, and his whole thing was like, if she can do it, anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
But his whole take was like, what is a cash flowing opportunity for Jennifer, because she needs the cash flow or needs to make money on real estate. She can't do it with a traditional, multifamily or short term rental.
No.
He's bullish on PadSplit. A lot of people are bullish on PadSplit or co living because of how much you can take on that return on investment. So
Yeah.
him, Brandon Turner, a whole bunch of different people. Sam Ryder. It's just endless as far as
Yeah, no, I
what.
mean the strategy works, especially in places like SoCal and even South Florida. Honestly,
Mhm.
it's becoming pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So this strategy is something that most of the investors and listeners should consider. Long term, you can underwrite conservatively. It doesn't really pencil out.
Mhm.
Midterm, I think PadSplit falls under that midterm category, and it's
Yeah.
redefining what midterm really means.
Mhm.
Like midterm rental could be renting by the room, not just the
Yeah.
entire house.
Yeah.
And who you rent that room to does fall under the category of midterms. A lot of
Mhm.
people assume, well, midterm is for travel nurses and corporate stays and insurance, but that could also be the clients for PadSplit
Yeah.
model, right? You've
Yeah.
got a lot of nurses who may prefer a room versus the entire home.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you guys have that type of
What so
avatar
for your
too.
ADUs, like, what do you prefer? Do you want long term, midterm? Like,
Midterm
is that your deal?
PadSplit, yeah,
Okay.
because long term, I probably get for a 2-2 in Long Beach, maybe 3,200,
Okay.
for that area.
Mhm.
So 32 for the top, 32 for the bottom, maybe 22 for the studio.
Okay. Okay.
But if I do pad split, right, let's run those numbers. If I rent out each room,
Mhm.
that's 4 rooms in the back plus the studio. I mean, we have studios all over that we manage. We've got ADUs that are 370 square feet. We got one in
That's
Huntington
tiny.
Beach. Guess how much is renting for midterm?
I'm gonna say 2,000, 2,500.
2,800.
Wow.
370 square feet.
That's
It's less
crazy.
than, it's smaller than your typical garage.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
garages are 400.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. I've got like 10 others. We've got some in Lakewood, some in Long Beach, between 3 to 500 square feet. Okay,
Mhm.
a studio with stackable washer
Yeah.
dryer, living area slash bedroom slash, it's all in one. It's a
Yeah.
tiny space, and they're renting for 2,800
That's
midterm.
crazy. Yeah.
hmm
That my property back in Texas in Austin, I
Yeah.
have a tiny home.
Nice.
So I Airbnb it.
Now, I would
Yeah.
love to explore the pad split model
Yeah.
once they're built, and I'm hoping that it'll take me less than a year.
Yeah.
I'm getting the measurements, and I'm sharing this whole journey, by the way, on
Cool.
Instagram and YouTube.
Okay.
So I had asked like for people's suggestion on which route I should go. Should I convert the garage? Should I extend to the garage? Or should I tear down the garage
Yeah.
and build up top? And I'm
Right.
going to go with the third option, which is demo the garage, build those 2 units. And I could possibly fit a 3-2.
Yeah.
We'll see on
Yeah.
Saturday once I do the measurements with the architect.
Mhm.
But I do like the 2-2 model as well because I feel like it won't be as cramped.
Yeah.
And they'll each have like their own bathroom, right?
Yeah.
And they could have a co-living area that they can share. So I think we could probably get 12 to 1,500 per room,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's 4 rooms
Yeah.
in the back plus the studio, or one bedroom. I don't know, like 2,500 minimum,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, what you could do is like do that front room pad split, rent out by the room, and then the other two up front, you could possibly midterm or short term rental that.
Right, right.
The only biggest thing is that for pad split for the property,
The studio wouldn't really work, right? Because it's a
true.
bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Which is fine because that one I could have as a midterm
yeah.
all day because I've already seen that model works. For travel nurses or corporate
Yeah.
stays,
Yeah.
that studio could be midterm. But the back, I mean,
You do
it's
yeah.
I think it's ideal, and so when I think about the design, I'm gonna take into consideration what we talked about, as far as like the size of the room,
Yeah.
each having its own bathroom, shared living area, dining
Mhm.
area, living area.
Yeah.
And they're both going to be the same model.
Yeah.
Upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you could do upstairs like midterm and then the downstairs pad split because what happens is that if you're in a house, we can't mix like pad split. You can't mix up like Airbnb with pad split or
got it.
midterm rental with pad split because everybody in that property has to be vetted by pad split.
Got
Okay?
it.
It's just liability purposes, right?
So it would be just the units in the back.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do it that way.
Yeah,
we could,
that's how I
yeah.
would do it.
And then-
So it would be divided though, not technically subdivision lot split.
Yeah.
But the front house would have an attached ADU. And obviously right
Yeah.
now I'm in the front. So the front would be
Yeah.
my area.
That's your deal. So you're kind of hacking that
Exactly.
living there and then
Yeah.
having everybody else.
Everyone in the back would be PadSplit.
Is this in Huntington or
Long
Long
Beach?
Beach? Okay,
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
How are the regulations with that?
Well, as far as short term, you can't
No,
really do short
yeah,
term. With
but
midterm, it has to be 30 days more or more.
okay, I'm interested though in like the ADU thing. Like you probably talk about in your past.
Long Beach is, I've
Pretty
talked about it several times on the podcast. Long Beach is one
pretty
of the
simple.
easiest cities to work with.
Wow.
Easiest because they've submitted the most amount of ADUs. I'm also from Long Beach, so
Right.
it's awesome that this city is so pro housing
Mhm.
and they have a streamlined process. So we've done projects in 7.5 months.
Wow.
We
That's
just did
very
an
good.
SB9 in Long Beach. We did two 1,200 square foot units in the back. And you could never tell from the outside.
Yeah, yeah,
It looks
yeah.
like a single family
Yeah.
home with we actually kept the garage.
Uh-huh.
But if you walk further back,
You'll see it.
you see the huge
Yeah,
units.
that's awesome.
1,200 in the bottom, 1,200 up top,
Yeah.
32. And each one rented for 3,600.
Holy smoke.
Could have got 4,000 for it, but we were taking into consideration the fact that they were going to have parking.
Mhm.
We kept the driveway and the park and the garage, but that was mainly for the front house,
So
which was a
are
fortune.
ADUs are they allowed to be financed or how does that work out?
Yeah, so the financing is difficult because there isn't ADU specific models, right? Like traditional loans for it.
Mhm.
So people have to get creative. If it's not a HELOC loan, it's family, money, gifts, is 0% interest cards,
Got
the
it.
cards for
Got
the
it.
first 12 months or
Even though it's tied to land, it technically cannot be
yeah,
real estate.
yeah, but not yet, not yet.
Okay.
But there's ways around it, like with SB9, for example, if I was to actually split the lot, which would take a lot longer and a
Yeah,
lot more
because you'd
fees
have to go to the city
and get it
survey it.
entitled
Yeah.
and get it surveyed,
Yeah.
all that. If I do the SB9 lot split, which is something that I was considering, but because of those reasons, I think I'm going to go with the SB9 duplex route. So that's the difference between the two types of SB9.
Got it.
You've got SB9 duplex provision,
Mhm.
which basically just allows you to build more
Right.
without having to split it. And then there's the SB9 lot split. So if I did the SB9 lot split, I could get financing on it.
Mhm.
Once it's split, it's like piece of land, you get a construction loan, you're a developer now. You're developing on it, you get a construction loan, and then refi out of that into a DSCR loan after it's built.
Mm.
But if I'm doing the other route, which is the one I'm going to most likely go with, it's hard for me to get financing.
Got it.
So I'm actually going to raise capital for it.
Got it. Okay.
It'll be about 500 to 600K to build it all, if that. And so, yeah, raising like 25% of it to get a construction loan and then, finance it that way. So that's another route,
Yeah.
for the bigger projects. But
Yeah.
people who want to build a typical ADU that's 165,000, which is kind of like your standard garage conversion. They're getting creative with HELOC loans if you have enough equity. If you just bought a house like me and you don't have enough equity, you're kind of limited.
So
You're
you
either
gotta private
raising or private equity or exactly.
Okay. I'm just thinking,
now.
I'm just thinking about different things like with PadSplit, especially for the boomers or first time home buyers. What you could do is get the home and then build an ADU in the front, and then for that short amount of time or whatever 3 or 5 year period, living that front ADU and then PadSplit the back.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of like different things.
Or vice versa. I mean, we get a lot of calls from millennials who are wanting to buy in today's world and they can't afford it. But they're like, hey, my parents bought this house in the 80s. They've got a shit ton of equity and the house is empty.
Yeah. What do I do?
Can we use their equity to build a small ADU in the back, have them have
live,
parents move into the smaller ADU, they move into the front house, or rent it out. Either way, like there's so many possibilities in them being able to stay in this city rather than buying a house 2 hours away because they can't afford it. And I think overall, like, from a mental health standpoint, to your point, like it's good to have community. We saw it in Barcelona when I was out there last week. These people are like smoking and drinking wine, yet they look so much healthier because they have good food and they have, I think the most important thing is community. Community. That was my biggest takeaway from the travel and like meeting everybody out there. The the lifestyle, you really do need co-living, especially for boomers, and a lot of boomers are stuck in their homes by them, just like rotting away, getting
Sad.
older. It's pretty sad, and we don't talk about it enough. So I think it only makes sense to, instead of getting them out of their house and putting them in assisted living, that's going to be like 6 to 8 thousand a month. Use their equity and build in their, build them their smaller ADU in the back, because they don't need a big house. And either the kids move into the front house, or you rent it out by the room, and maybe in one of the rooms it's rented to the care nurse who's going to take care of the older.
Okay, that's my project then with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
there you go. Let's do that.
Do that.
We're both passionate about housing.
Yeah. I love that idea, and it's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you're not ready
There's
for
so much
that nursing home.
opportunity in that.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a nursing home.
You don't want to,
but you want that, like that. Well, we have like 55 and older, like it's called the Golden Girls kind of thing, where
okay.
You still have like the older people, or sometimes their spouse passes away and they don't, so they have not that community, but being able to just
like my mom's told me, if your dad passes away or when I get older, I don't want to be in assisted living.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to make enough money or have enough rentals to afford someone to live here full time.
Yeah, but it's also expensive. Like what you said,
either
like 8 to 10 grand a month.
Yeah,
to have somebody in a home.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of webinars. I actually did one called ADUs for boomers, and that was all I talked about.
Okay,
is showing millennials, hey, if your parents have X amount of equity, they're getting older, they're getting tired. Why not, instead of selling their house, to downsize, which doesn't make sense with the rates
because you have to pay the rates and the
everything else, or even worse, like selling their house to put them in assisted living.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you guys look at, as a family, when you're having these family discussions, how can you keep the house, maybe build that smaller ADU for them, and now you can oversee your mom, and you guys aren't all up in each other's spaces, but you have privacy, and yet you're co-living. You can go check on mom, she's back there. Or if you don't want to live in the front, rent it out by the room and have one of the care nurses live in one of the rooms and go and check on your mom. And your mom doesn't feel like, oh, I've left my comfortable space.
I love it. So, yeah.
We'll work on that, and we'll have another episode on that. But how can people connect with you guys? Because I like the fact that you guys are catering, and this conversation is catered to investors who are considering this as a strategy to maximize returns. But then also maybe somebody that's listening right now who doesn't have rentals and they're looking to rent something.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways, right? Yeah. Who do they reach out to? Where do they go?
Yeah.
Submit information.
So you can go to PadSplit.com and click on like apply, or not apply, but become a host. There's no charge to that, but you just click on, you have all that information there. So whatever area you're at, you can connect, with a PadSplit US market representative that's based in the city. So we have them throughout the city. I'm in Austin, but I can work with anybody across the United States. So you can find me on, at Tony Amigleo, TonyAmigleo on like Instagram or even like LinkedIn. But it's super easy. Just go to PadSplit. You want to click become a host. Totally free. You have all that information, and then you just start from there. So
awesome. Yeah. We'll share that on the screen. We'll share it in the clips. But I think for now, thank you so much, Tony. This was incredible, and I hope that you guys got a lot of value from it, because it really is the new strategy, in my opinion. I know midterms are very popular right now, but this definitely reshapes how we house people in general. So stay tuned. Thank you.